Minister, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
There are a number of large-scale conflicts going on around the world right now, and the latest one is happening in Lebanon. Considering that South Africa launched a case against Israel in the ICJ, what do you make of these developments happening in the Middle East?
Well, I think if the multilateral was working, the UN Security Council should have been able to call Israel to call off these attacks on the Palestinians and Lebanese. But I think it's a failure of the multilateral system that we are seeing, because Israel is not accepting the court decision. So we need to strengthen the multilateral system in order to be able to stop individual countries from doing what they're doing, what Israel is doing.
And in the latest escalation in the Middle East, various electronic devices exploded, and that resulted in injuries and deaths among civilians in Lebanon. Now, Hezbollah has accused Israel of this. What are your thoughts on these potential warfare tactics that are being used by countries right now?
I think it's unfortunate that technology that is being used by civilians is now part of warfare, which means people are going to be scared. You don't know what's going to happen. You're carrying this device. You're hoping that you are using it for communication, but it's a potential weapon as well against you. So I think it's really a pity that is what is happening now.
From a South African perspective, how can the tensions in the Middle East be resolved? What do you think?
Well, we've tried our best to use the ICJ, which is an avenue that is legal. But I also think we should mobilize solidarity across the world. You know, South Africa, when we were struggling, we enjoyed a lot of solidarity from almost every country, not necessarily from every government, but from the population, from the east to the west. In the United States, there were people who were mobilizing for us in solidarity. I think that solidarity is very important for the Palestinians and for the Middle East as a whole.
And what do you think should be done on behalf of the international community, or, for example, international platforms like BRICS, when it comes to the escalating situation with Israel?
I think every organization, every forum should express itself on this matter in favor of peace, in favor of the Palestinians being allowed to live in peace like all of us, and should be expressed to Israel to stop escalation against Palestinians and neighboring countries.
Now, considering that the United States is a very close ally of Israel, what should they do to make peace in this region? Do you think that they want that at all?
You know, if you're an ally, it should be possible for you to speak to your ally, to say this is not acceptable. This is not what the United Nations stands for. This is not what humanity would like to see. I think they should be able to convince them. But of course, I think they have a strong lobby also in the US, especially in the business and so on. So maybe that's the problem.
And now let's talk a little bit about BRICS. Very soon, BRICS leaders will meet in the Russian city of Kazan. What are your expectations from that event and from the BRICS cooperation as a whole with South Africa?
I think BRICS should be seen as cooperation in business, in trade, but also cooperation in education. We should be able to have student exchanges and so on. There should be cooperation amongst young people, amongst women, but also there should be cooperation for peace, for a peaceful world. But we also need, I would be happy one day if BRICS were to have its own way of currency in trading that does not depend just on one currency. If maybe we could trade in our own currencies amongst ourselves, or have an alternative that is easier, because that would make trade much easier. But also we should encourage BRICS countries to have their citizens visit. Tourism is very important because people-to-people relationships are also important. Governments come and go, but the people will always be the same. So if the people are part of BRICS, civil society is part of BRICS, it makes it even more sustainable, irrespective of who is in government at the time.
Now, returning to the topic of women, how, in your opinion, how can gender equality in the world be improved without making it a political tool?
You know, gender equality, in my view, is not just a favor to women. I don't think there's a country that can actually reach its full development potential if women are not fully involved. Because, one, women in any country are the majority. Women have a different perspective because they bring human beings to this world. And therefore, they have a sense about how to look after the family, not only in terms of making sure that the kids are fed, the kids go to school clean, but also that there's peace and harmony in the home. And therefore that they do also in the community. So in the country, in the world, women would bring a very important perspective to global politics. But also research shows that companies that have more women in their top management tend to be more competitive than those who only have men in their top management. And that must then tell you that women are important. But also when there's conflict, I think women should be brought in early, not only to be refugees and be running, but also to be part of trying to find a solution, to be part of negotiations. Because women negotiate every day in the family and everywhere. So I think it's an important, gender equality is important for the full development of every country.
I want to ask you a question about the censorship of our channel RT by the United States, because not only did they sanction the channel, but they're claiming and they've accused us of interfering in other countries' politics. They've also said that the reason there's a lack of support towards Ukraine in the global south is because of RT. Now, what do you think about all of this?
Well, I'm a believer in free speech, free communication, and free discussions. So I'm not sure that censorship helps, but discussions, hearing the other person, them hearing your view, I think is the best way rather than to shut anything down. I don't think it helps.
Can you give us a little insight when it comes to how the South African coalition government is working together after several months since the elections took place?
Well, it's early days. So far, so good. I think so far it's working. But as I say, it's early days. We hope that it can be stable because it's important to have stability for everything else in the country. If there's no stability in government, then you can imagine what would happen to the rest. So we hope that it will work.